Coming up on Hands on Tech, I've got some questions that I can't wait to answer. First, we talk about Google Maps and what you can do when it comes to using it for bike routes. We have some questions about home theater, and I get an opportunity to explain passkeys. It's all of that, plus so much more, coming up on Hands on Tech.
This is TWiT.
Welcome to Hands on Tech for the first time, or if you are a returning listener, well, thank you for being here. This, of course, is the show where I, Mikah Sargent, take tech questions from around the world and try to help you figure out what the heck is going on, what you need to do to get this problem solved. We mostly get questions in via hot@twit.tv. That's the email, hot@twit.tv. You can send us an email, and we would love to hear from you. But as is always the way, we have some great questions today, and occasionally do reviews of products, unboxings, that kind of thing. But this is once again an episode full of great questions. Our first question this week comes in from Marta Guy, who writes, "Hello, Mikah. I have a Google Maps question. I am a retired cyclist. The cycling times proposed by Google Maps are much too fast. Is there a way to adjust the reference speed on the website or the iOS app? I much prefer the website to the app because it allows me to modify the route to the one used in reality. Is there a good alternative to Google? Thank you." Marta, thank you for writing in. I did some research on this because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, because my initial look into Google Maps itself was not giving me any way to change the speed at which I would most likely ride a bike. In doing that research, I discovered that Google Maps reportedly assumes 10 miles per hour on average for bikers, and that is its calculation for how long it will take you to get from place A to place B. Some people travel faster, some people travel slower. The average is 10 miles per hour. Now, there is currently no way to change that average speed that is part of Google Maps. You just have to roll with it, if you will. And so if you want to, make your speed different, you would have to go in and actually just kind of do the math in your head. Okay, this is on average 10 miles per hour. I need to add X amount of time to this based on my own ability to travel along a route. If you are looking for a different option, there are two options that I saw pop up more than any others. One of those is a pretty popular app called Strava. Strava is kind of an all-purpose app that one of its main features is biking, but it also does sort of jogs and hiking. It involves GPS, control, being able to see where you're going, but it also measures performance. It has that kind of involved with it as well. So you can use Strava to plan out a route, to determine, where you're trying to go. And then also you can keep track of your performance over time. You can get information about, what is your average compared to what Google suggests. So it is a good way to go about doing that. The other app that I saw, and that's at strava.com. The other app that I saw that was getting the most attention was an app called Komoot, Komoot. And this app is specific to biking. It has ready-built routes. You can also plan out your routes. You can say, how fast you're planning on going. It has different kinds of biking methods. So depending on if you're doing road cycling, if you're using a sport bike, however it happens to be. And that way, I think this is probably the one that I would start with. Is Komoot at Komoot.com. And then if you don't like it, then try Strava as the kind of more popular, more well-known option. But Martin, I completely understand this idea that, look, Google has this average and it's nothing like what I'm actually going to do. The problem is, of course, that, depending on the conditions, depending on the route, depending on where you're planning to, there are loads of different, is your bike tire a little bit flat versus not? I can imagine that it was very difficult for Google's engineers to figure out what should be the sort of time for anyone if they're using a bike. And I definitely agree that giving someone the option to say, I'd like to change that is good. But that also means, Marta, that now that you know that 10 miles per hour is the average that they use, you can use that to do a little back of the napkin math or front of the napkin math, depending, doesn't matter, to determine what it would be for you. So if you know your average speed, you can kind of adjust Google's suggested and predicted time according to what you need. Yes, as Wizardling has said in the chat, math to the rescue. We love a bit of math. Absolutely. All right. Let us move on to our next question after I take a little sip of this water. Is it water? Maybe. All right. Michael has written in, and Michael says, I have a 4K TCL Roku TV. Not a super highline one, but it works well for me. I'm very close to viewing as it's in my home office that I can just swivel my chair and be about 3 feet away from the screen. I also have the most recent Amazon Fire Stick, which I think came out last year. I go back and forth with them, but I'm wondering if there is any difference between video and audio. The audio system I have is a TCL soundbar with a subwoofer. It sounds great. It's a small room, so it's all I need there. But is there a difference between watching it on the native Roku TV versus the Amazon Fire TV Stick? This is a really interesting question, mostly because this is a question that is very difficult to say with all absolute certainty. And so given that it's difficult to say with all absolute certainty, I'm going to kind of give you the thoughts related to this. If you've got an Amazon Fire TV Stick and you've got the 4K model, right, then that is going to be a really high quality experience. But there are different things that can come into play here when it comes to watching directly on your 4K TCL Roku TV via the built-in apps versus using this Fire TV Stick. It can depend on content distribution deals, and it can depend on app support, okay? So let's kind of get into this a little bit more. When you have a TV, a smart TV that has built-in apps, those apps are obviously purpose-built for that machine. The content on those apps are distributed with the knowledge of the devices on which they are running, right? And so the built-in experience is going to provide the means to sort of put the hardware through its paces, right? You are able to kind of count on being able to watch a show and have it be in that 4K HDR if it's offered in 4K HDR. And if you're using your subwoofer and your TCL soundbar and you're looking for the best experience in terms of sound and everything, and you want to make sure it's working up to snuff, again, you can more likely count on the TV itself being able to do all of those things. However, with an external device like this Fire TV Stick, there are things that the Fire TV Stick might have that you think are worth using, like that Fire TV ambient experience. That's one of the things that the Fire TV has. So there may be a reason why you're interested in using that third-party sort of third-party option, right? And if that's the case, that's totally okay. But keep in mind that there may be some apps that run on the Amazon Fire TV stick that aren't properly sending along the signal that is necessary to make the soundbar pipe out the right audio, and that it could, sort of default or drop down to stereo. It could be that the television is having no trouble via the Fire TV stick displaying content in 4K, but maybe the HDR or the Dolby Vision is not getting piped through properly. So on the face of it, you're probably not going to see a difference, but there could be some compatibility issues that you come across. If you're worried just in general that, okay, today I switched over to the Fire TV stick and I'm watching, and am I actually watching it at the best quality? If it's not something that's glaringly obvious to you, Michael, then I think it's safe to just say, you know what? It's working. It's fine. Everything's good. I like the experience that I have here, and I don't need to worry that I'm not getting the best possible thing that I can. At that point, it kind of comes down to taste. Do you like the Roku option? Do you like the built-in features that the Roku service has, the apps, the user interface, the UI? Is that what you want to use? Or do you like what Amazon has to offer, plus the integrations that Amazon might have? I don't know if you use it with ALEXA, for example, or if you've got the Fire TV stick that has Wi-Fi 6E support, and therefore you've got a router that has Wi-Fi 6E support. And then that is one place where there would be a difference, because the stick that you have plugged in might be able to load a Netflix video faster and in higher streaming resolution quicker than the television that has a slower Wi-Fi card in it, unless, of course, you have it plugged in via Ethernet. So there are all of these little tiny things that come into play when making the decision of what works best. But I am not of the opinion, unlike some people, that it is necessary and important to set things up so that you have what am I trying to say here? How do I want to word this? It boils down to this. If you can't tell the difference, if you are not unhappy, then it's fine. Don't worry about it. As opposed to being sort of more, very focused on, am I getting the best possible pixels that I possibly can get? Is this the best possible view that I can possibly get? If you, for whatever reason, want to switch between the two and it's not upsetting for you, then you're good. It's not anything that you need to worry about. But bearing those considerations in mind, that's what you want to know when it comes to using the 4K TCL Roku TV and the Amazon Fire TV stick. All right, we've got some more questions to get to, but I do want to take a quick break to tell you about our sponsor of this week's episode of Hands on Tech, and that is CacheFly. For more than 20 years, CacheFly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery, serving more than 5,000 companies in more than 80 countries. At TWiT, we here have been using CacheFly for more than a decade, and we love the lag-free video loading, the hyperfast downloads, the friction-free site interactions. It's all superb. CacheFly, it's the only CDN that's built for throughput. You get ultra-low latency video streaming that delivers video to more than 1 million concurrent users, lightning-fast gaming that delivers downloads faster with zero lag or glitches or outages, mobile content optimization that offers automatic and simple image optimization so that your site, can load faster on any device, plus flexible month-to-month billing for as long as needed and discounts for fixed terms. In fact, once you join, you can design your contract when you make that switch to CacheFly. CacheFly has several exciting updates to announce, by the way. SAML SSO, so CacheFly now supports security assertion markup language, that's SAML, for enhanced secure authentication and seamless single sign-on integration, that's SSO. You can now integrate your CacheFly login with your choice of identity management platforms like Okta, multiple origins, otherwise known as multi-origin. Using path and extension filters, you can now easily enable multiple origins on a single service. And the new status code is in beta. It's a new status code report and analytics. So you'll be able to view reports based on detailed status codes at 5-minute intervals, each pop, each service, and group, easily showing when your service experienced a high number of errors and pinpoint time and location. So yeah, CacheFly is always staying up to date with new technologies and new features. And it delivers rich media content up to how much? 158% faster than other major CDNs, and allows you to shield your site content in the cloud, ensuring a 100% cache hit ratio. And with CacheFly's elite managed packages, you're going to get the VIP treatment. Your dedicated account manager will be with you from day one, ensuring a smooth implementation, reliable 24/7 support when you need it. So learn how you can get your first month free at cachefly.com/twit. That's CACHEFLY.com/twit. And we thank CacheFly for sponsoring this week's episode of Hands on Tech. Alrighty. Our next question comes in from Lane. Lane writes in and says, I just got my Pixel 9 Pro. I store all music in a folder named Music, with subfolders for individual artists and subfolders below that for individual albums. Wow. I'm impressed, Lane. I do not do that at all. I let it all get managed for me. Lane says, I use Musicolet, which is the word music with an O-L-E-T at the end. I use Musicolet as my music player. Now, I know how to shuffle songs within an album, but here's the question. Is it possible, using shuffle mode, to play all songs of an individual artist? Do you recommend an app without subscription fees that can do that? So basically what Lane is saying is, look, because of my sorting method, if I go into music, and I go into an artist, and then I go into an album, now that folder is just a list of songs. So it's easy to tell the music player to shuffle those songs. But if Lane is looking to shuffle the songs of an artist, because that folder just has subfolders underneath it, the app doesn't seem to be able to do that. And so the answer to your question is the same answer that I gave to someone with a similar question recently who was trying to do it from Windows. Folks, Android also has VLC. VLC is available for the Android platform. So what I'm going to recommend to you, dear Lane, is to check out VLC for Android. It is a full port of the VLC media player, so it works like it does in other places, and that means that you are able to actually play through your different artists and be able to shuffle those songs. So you would create your playlists, you would be able to set it up however you want to, and what it does is handle the part of reading from that media library that you've provided, and then using that to, populate the list that you have. So you don't need to because there are kind of two ways of doing this. There are systems where you kind of just import your music and then it organizes all of your music for you and it sets it up in the methods that it chooses with folders and subfolders and subfolders and subfolders. Or there's the option of what you've done, Lane, which is to do it yourself and then point an app at it. But if that app doesn't have the functionality to understand the organizational method and know that within those folders are music and you should just populate this list with that music, well, okay. But VLC is going to be my best bet there. But of course, one of the great things about this show is that once this is out there, people will often write in and say, oh, I heard you talking about this topic, and here's what I use. So I do promise, Lane, that if you are having issues, or rather, if someone writes in to let me know the app that they use to do the same thing, I'll be sure to let you know. But as it stands, yeah, I think VLC is probably an option for you. Although I have heard, according to the chat, Scooter X says that Musicolet is pretty popular out there. So that's interesting. And of course, that one of the features of it is this is just your local music library. We're not messing with all that streaming nonsense. So I get that. I get that, Lane. All right. Our next question comes in from John. John writes in and says, I am trying to connect legacy hardware to an iPhone hotspot. More specifically, a Govee Temp Monitor H5051, Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz only. Supposedly, John writes, maximize compatibility supports 2.4 gigahertz. It won't connect. Any tips or tricks to get it to work? First of all, I want to say something here, which is that this show has taught me something interesting. I was wholly and totally unaware of the number of people who use their smartphone hotspot as their network for their home. Blows my mind. I think about people who use a specifically purchased little hotspot from a carrier, or they get home Wi-Fi through a carrier. But the number of people who are attempting to set up like full networks in their home from a hotspot is mind-boggling. I've received so many questions over the time regarding hotspots. And when I think of hotspots, I think of I've got a laptop and I'm out and about and I want to connect my laptop to the internet, or I have a phone with an unlimited data plan with a hotspot. My friend only has a gig of data. You can connect to my hotspot and keep rolling. Or my child has an iPad that's just Wi-Fi and I connect to that. But wow, people use their hotspots on their phones as like full-on networks, and that blows my mind. Anyway, thank you, John, and to the other people who have written in to tell me about that, because it is fascinating to me. So let's kind of talk about this. You are correct, John, in making the choice to first and foremost do the option of going in and turning on maximize compatibility. So maximize compatibility is a setting in your iPhone's personal hotspot settings that tells the phone, do not offer up 5 gigahertz as a Wi-Fi connectivity option. Only 2.4 gigahertz. And that way, devices that don't have access to the 5 gigahertz channel are unable to access it, and it doesn't get in the way of those devices that can only connect in that way. Now, when it comes to this, what do we need to do? What are some options? Well, I think the biggest thing you can do, and the one thing I was able to come up with for this, John, is to launch the Settings app and go into Cellular in the iPhone settings, and then go into Cellular Data Options. In Cellular Data Options, check to see if your iPhone has a feature enabled called Limit IP Address Tracking. This is a feature from Apple that is also known as iCloud Private Relay. And it does some stuff in the background to kind of bounce around your connectivity with the internet to mask your location and keep better privacy for you. And I have found that while it is a great feature for privacy reasons, it is also really annoying when it comes to compatibility issues. There are times where it is responsible for something not being able to connect. So my suggestion is going in there and making sure that is toggled off while you're trying to connect the Govee Temp Monitor, and then turn it back on after that's all done. Outside of that, despite my research, I was unable to find any other way to get an iPhone hotspot to appear and connect with a device that is 2.4 gigahertz only. Everything I've read suggests that it should connect just fine. So the fact that it's not connecting obviously is an issue. And that's the one place I could think of that would be responsible for it having trouble connecting, because any of the other things that you would do with a router, where maybe you've got WPA3 enabled, which is great for newer devices, but is the bane of older devices, or you have a hidden network instead of a network that's available, or you thought you turned off the 5 gigahertz, but it's still on. That's all router stuff that you do. That is not something that you have access to control on the iPhone when you're using it as a personal hotspot. So limit IP address tracking is the one place I can recommend, making that change. If you're still having issues after this, John, my next tip or trick is to reach out to Govee, because perhaps there's something wrong with the Wi-Fi chip rather, in the Govee temp monitor. And if that's the case, maybe they'll be able to help you replace it, or they've heard about other people having issues as well, and it needs to be changed there. So yeah, check with that Govee temp monitor. And as Michael has said in the chat on YouTube, Michael says, could it be a firmware setting? Doubt that it's a firmware setting, but it could be a firmware issue, meaning that you said it's a legacy device. If it's old enough, maybe that firmware is just out of date, and therefore it's not able to connect with a more modern hotspot, even though the hotspot is set to the 2.4 gigahertz legacy mode, or maximize compatibility mode. I would love, John, to hear back from you after you've tried these different options. So please do write back to let us know what ended up working out for you, because, as I said, I've discovered lots and lots of people out there using their iPhone hotspots as their home internet network, which again just boggles the mind. You'd have to keep it plugged in at all times, wouldn't you? And like lots of cellular carriers love to slow you down after a while. So maybe you just have a small network. I don't know. You know what? This is another thing. hot@twit.tv. If you use your smartphone as your cellular network at home, or as your home network, write in and let me know. I got questions, and I'd love to be able to share that with the listeners out there. I think it's an interesting thing that I had not really considered as a thing to do always. I do have my iPhone set as a backup internet connection if my internet ever goes out, but that's the extent of it. I have not gone past that. All right. Let us go to our next question, which comes from Todd. Todd writes in, actually, this is a little different, because Todd wrote in to me via my Tech News Weekly show. TNW@twit.tv was the email that Todd used. And Todd was writing about a couple of episodes that I've done where we have talked about passkeys. Many of you out there know what passkeys are, okay? So this is just for you to nod along with. But Todd had some questions regarding passkeys, and it's funny because I had a friend recently who was visiting who said, so what are passkeys? And I had the very complex answer, and I wanted to break it down and make it a little bit simpler for Todd. So Todd, get ready, listen in, but let me go ahead and read your question. You talked on this show, by the way, that show, Tech News Weekly, and other shows about a passkey. Love this says about a passkey, but I still don't know what a passkey is. I understand usernames and passwords the old way, It is text that I enter into a field on my computer or phone and that I keep on a Post-it note taped to my computer monitor or my case and Outlook contact. Usernames and passwords I get. I know what they physically are and how to use them. But after listening to 2 of your shows on Passkeys, I still don't know what they are or how they're used or how they're generated, etc. Is it a physical key that I keep on my key ring? Who generates it? What is it? A bunch of text like a password? And again, who generates this? Me or Amazon, where I'm shopping, or other websites that I buy stuff from? Beautiful question, Todd. And let's get into it. All right, so Todd asks first and foremost, is it a physical key? Well, Todd, no, it is not a physical key. There's nothing physical about it. You can't put it on a key ring. It is a digital. It's a digital credential. It is a string of characters that is stored on your device, and it's usually on your phone or on your computer. It is not anything physical. The confusion of that comes from people being aware of the fact that there are physical keys like a YubiKey that you plug in to authenticate yourself. And knowing that YubiKeys are FIDO compliant and everything else that's involved there, it gets mixed up. So I can understand why you would think that there is a physical key. There is not a physical key. That is just because when we talk about this authentication stuff, we talk about them kind of all together. Now, what exactly is a passkey? A passkey is a series of characters that is unique to each type of login that you do. Your device generates this unique series of characters and keeps it safe for you. So let's say we're back in the times of Prohibition, and you are going to a speakeasy and you need to know the secret phrase, okay? When you go to the speakeasy for the first time, you prove you are who you are. The speakeasy says, okay, you're you, and I trust you, and you seem cool, so you can come in. And then as you're coming in, you're handed a little, you yourself have kind of a little secret phrase. And the person on the other end that's running the speakeasy has another part of that secret phrase, okay? And then the next time you go to the speakeasy, you say your secret phrase, and they compare it to theirs. And if the two line up, this metaphor is going to break apart a little bit. But essentially, when we're talking about this credential, it's kind of a secret phrase, but it's just a secret phrase that computers understand. So let's leave it at that. You want to get into the speakeasy, this is what's generated at that moment, okay? And then the way that this is where the other confusion comes in, is that people think that your PIN or your fingerprint or your face is your passkey, and that's not the case. In order to access the passkey that has been created, you show that you are you. And so the way that you show that you are you is by scanning your face, typing in your PIN, or putting down your fingerprint. That says you're you. You can access your passkey now, but it's the passkey itself that actually serves as a means of showing that you gain access, that you're cool, that you get to walk into the speakeasy. So who actually generates this passkey, right? Is it the speakeasy's, public-facing? Is it the person at the door of the speakeasy, or is it you yourself? Well, when you set up an account, let's say you go to Amazon and you already have an account, okay? You already have an account. You log in with your username and your password. You go into Amazon settings and you say, I want to set up a passkey. When you do that, your device, your phone, your computer, whatever, is going to create a string of characters. And this string of characters has two parts, okay? There is the private part that you keep in your pocket. This is the part that the device that you have, your phone, your computer, holds on to. And then there's the public part. That's called the public key. And that gets handed to the website. And the website saves, that public key with your account. So if it's an email, boozehunter3000@gmail.com, trying to get access to the speakeasy, that public part of the key gets handed over, ZX3174, blah, 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 blah. They hold on to that. You have your private part. And here's the thing. Your private key is never shared with the site that's holding onto the public key. So Amazon does not know your private key and never will. Instead, what happens is that when you log in, the site says, okay, this is your email, boozehunter3000@gmail.com. You're trying to gain access to the speakeasy. It looks at the public key and it says, all right, based on this, you should be able to answer the following question. And then it gives your device sort of a riddle. And only a device that has that private key you're keeping in your pocket is able to solve this riddle. And so then the site says, okay, you properly solved the riddle, you can come in. It uses the public part to verify with your device that has the private part that they match and that everything is good and that you are truly you. Now, when you are logging in to Amazon, to Google, to Microsoft, to whatever is using the passkey, the confusion that can come up is, oh, I'm taking my finger, I'm putting it down on the fingerprint reader, or, oh, I'm looking at it, it's scanning my face, that's my password. No. You are proving to your device that you are you so that your device can actually share that information, can challenge that information and make sure that you are able to log in. So I want to kind of step back because I do have a habit of going into metaphors that can be a little confusing. And so let's just take a look at this from the start. We're just going to make it simple. Let's say you have never had an Amazon account before. You go to Amazon.com, you sign up for an account, and you set it up with a passkey. So you give it your username, and you say, go ahead and generate a passkey using my email address and everything. And you're doing it from your computer. Your computer has a password manager that supports passkeys. And in that moment, when it asks, do you want to set up a passkey for login for this? Then how can we do that? Okay. All I need to do is say yes. And your computer's password manager generates that private key that it keeps in its pocket, it's almost like taking a piece of paper with a long string of characters on it. There are going to be people who are very, very knowledgeable about this who are cringing right now, but I'm trying to make this simple. Long string of characters on it, ripping it in half and never showing that private part to the other site. Sticking the half that is private in the pocket, handing over the part that's public to the site. Now they've got that, right? Amazon has the public part. Then you leave Amazon. It's been long enough, so you get logged out because the cookie has expired. You come back, you try to log in, and it says, okay, you're telling me your email, and I see that I've got this public key. You handed me that half of the paper. Let me look at this public key. This string of characters means that you should be able to answer the following question if you have the private key in your pocket, because that's what gives you the ability to decoder ring this challenge. Your device, in this case, we said we're doing it on the computer, gets that challenge, that riddle, and your password manager looks in its pocket and says, oh, yes. The answer is the blue moon at midnight. And it goes back and the website says, you got it. You're in. You're you. You can visit the site and you're logged in. So that is a little bit about how and where the passkey is generated, what passkey pairing is, and kind of the authentication process that's involved. And thank you for sticking with me through the prohibition metaphor to what I feel like is the better metaphor there at the end. So your next question was, how do you use it? Well, using it is as simple as going to the website wherever you, or the service, and when you're prompted, because you'll actually get prompted to to log in with your passkey, everything should kind of happen automatically. But there may be a button that says log in with passkey. And depending on what site or what service you're using to store your passkey, it can be more or less automatic. If you're using a password manager like 1Password, by the way, is a sponsor on the network, which is the password manager that I use, I get a little prompt up in the top right corner that says, use your passkey to log into this. I say yes. And then 1Password says, okay, I've got that private key in my pocket, but I'm not going to show the website the answer to the riddle unless I know that you're actually you. So can you type in your password for the password manager? Or in my case, I just have to do a fingerprint scan. Then it goes, okay, you're actually Mikah. So now I can answer this question for you. The answer to the riddle to actually get into the site. So how do you use it? You just go to a site, you log in after you've set it up, and you are able to access it by handing over the answer to the riddle. And then last but not least, the question is, how secure is it? Well, here's the beauty about passkeys. I had a great conversation with Steve Gibson about this one time when Leo was out and I was hosting Security Now in his place. And Steve said there's something unique about the passkey situation, which is that typically when something is easier than the method that came before it, it means that we are giving up a level of security for the convenience. And so because that's the typical case, one would expect that the ease through which we can log in using passkeys means that passkeys are less secure, right? It's too easy, so they must be less secure. That's how it usually works. If I'm trying to get into my house and I only have the lock that's part of the doorknob rather than the lock that's part of the doorknob and the deadbolt and the two locks that I have above it, that's less secure. I'm able to get through the door much easier than if I had those extra locks. This is one of those rare cases, Steve points out, that it is both more convenient and more secure than your standard method. And that is because think about many a data breach out there. I'll use one great example, 23andMe. They used the people who accessed 23andMe's information used a technique called credential stuffing. And that just means they tried a bunch of usernames and passwords and found ones that actually worked. And that is because people are reusing passwords. And so one site gets breached, they use that password on another site, and then the person's able to gain access to all of them, right? Well, yeah, makes sense. That would happen. And so that's where pseudo-random passwords generated by password managers are safer, right? Because then you don't have a password that you're reusing across sites. So people say, well, let's do that. Let's set up pseudo-random passwords. Now we look and we see that the next type of data breach is going to an insecure site or less secure site, or perhaps it's a very secure site, but they've figured out some method of social engineering to gain access to the site, and they steal usernames and passwords, and they gain access to that because that site is holding on to your username and your password. So now it has that information. The bad actor has that information. They can get in, right? Let's think about passkeys. With passkeys, if someone were to go to the site and steal the username and the passkey that's tied to it, they only have that piece of the paper that I ripped in half that's the public half. They don't have the private half. Without the private half, they're not able to access the account. They don't have the necessary bit, the decoder ring to solve the riddle to actually gain access to the account. And they need that in order to gain access to the account. So passkeys are inherently more secure because of that. Another reason they're more secure is because it's much harder to give away a passkey than it is to give away a password. So with that, the phishing attempts are less. The ability to access those passkeys are less. Without that private key, it's much harder to gain access to that account through these more standard means. And those more standard means of bad actors are used more frequently because they're easier than having to devote resources toward talking to someone over a period of time, gaining their trust, then getting their username and password that way. Much easier to go and steal a database worth of passwords and usernames because you can, do that once and get access to a lot. So how secure are passkeys? More secure than passwords, more secure than pseudo-random passwords, and arguably more secure than pseudo-random passwords paired with two-factor authentication. There are some cases where passkeys are just used as a means of two-factor authentication, but over time, we're going to see more and more the use of passkeys as just that single means of authentication with some other form of two-factor, like a generated code if you want it. So, Todd, I want to thank you so much for asking this question. I want to thank those of you who have written in the chat that this was a good explanation in the end, because I did get a little worried there when we got lost in that metaphor, but we came around to it. And I am looking forward to hearing back from you, Todd, on if you feel like you understand passkeys at this point. Folks, believe it or not, that is going to bring us to the end of this episode of Hands on Tech. I want to thank those of you who have written in with your questions, hot@twit.tv. Thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it. If you've got questions, I've got answers, and I am looking forward to answering those again soon. I want to take a little moment here to mention Club Twit at twit.tv/clubtwit. Join the club. It's just $7 a month. And when you join the club at twit.tv/clubtwit, you gain access to the Twit Plus bonus feed that has extra content you won't find anywhere else. Behind the scenes, before the show, after the show, special Club Twit events get published there. Access to the members-only Discord server, a fun place to go to chat with your fellow Club Twit members and those of us here at Twit. And access to ad-free versions of all of our shows, access to the video versions of our Club Twit shows like iOS Today, Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows, Untitled Linux Show, Home Theater Geeks. All of that is available. And by the way, for a limited time, we are offering new users, new subscribers, a couple weeks free of Club Twit. So if you have a friend who's been thinking about doing it and they haven't done it yet, well, you can join for free to try it out. twit.tv/clubtwit. Give it a go. I think you'll have a lot of fun, and I think we'll see you stick around, which I absolutely love. For those of you who are Club Twit members who are watching right now, listening right now, you can also check out our referral program, twit.tv/clubtwit/referral. When you head there, you will be able to get months of Club Twit for free by bringing in other listeners, viewers, subscribers, etc. So check that out as well. twit.tv/clubtwit, just $7 a month. Thank you, everyone, and I will catch you again next Sunday for another episode of Hands on Tech. Bye-bye.